All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We will go ahead and get started today. We only have 30 minutes together, so it goes by very quickly, and I want to make sure we're getting all of our time in. So just to introduce what we're here for today, welcome to PagerDuty 101, and we like to call this session part 4. Today, we'll actually be diving into the final section of our introduction to PagerDuty, focusing specifically on services and integrations. If you did not happen to attend part 1, 2, and 3 and would like to, we will be sharing details on those sessions at the end of this presentation today. As well as by the end of week, we should be getting a lot of our recordings up in our portal, so you could always go back and attend those sessions. So just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Haley Neal. I'm the manager of customer education as part of our PagerDuty University arm. And if you haven't heard of PagerDuty University as of yet, it is our customer training program where we do webinars like this, on-demand training, live training, all to both current and prospective customers on the use of the PagerDuty platform, as well as modular role-based best practice training, really suitable for any digital operations management practitioner. So we do a lot. This is just a little snippet of what we do as a team. And if there's any kind of need for education in your organization, I'll give you that information at the end of this as well. All right, so as I mentioned, there are 2 pieces of the PagerDuty platform we will be speaking about today, and both of them fall under configuring your account. So if you do happen, again, to be a manager, you manage a team in PagerDuty, we're going to be setting up different aspects of your account that you would have access to set up, and that's typical permissions of a manager to be able to go in, set up things for your team, and make sure your team is off on the right foot. If you happen to be a responder, observer, maybe someone not directly involved with the configuration of the account, you can still kind of attend this just to see how incidents are created in your PagerDuty account and routed to your team for you to then respond. So it is the last bit of our configuration. Again, if you weren't here with us earlier this week, up until this point, we've added users to our PagerDuty account. So if you haven't done that as of yet, I recommend you doing so. We do want to ensure everyone's profiles are set up. That way, when you are notified of an incident, you are notified in a way that makes the most sense for you. And the schedule and escalation policy essentially dictates who on your team is getting notified. But to put that all together, we might need to configure our services and integrations to really make sure that we know, hey, this problem where our mobile app is down, we know what's being affected, what area of the business. It is routed to the right escalation policy, which is dictated by that service, and it is coming from a particular integration. PagerDuty isn't just creating incidents out of nothing. They're most likely coming from your monitoring tools, your ticketing systems. So how do we make sure those are set up on that services and integrations bit? So if there are any questions throughout the duration of this webinar, please don't hesitate to post them in the chat. There is a chat feature available. I will answer those questions either as we're going along or at the very end of today's session. So we're going to start with services. And in the PagerDuty platform, there are 2 different types of services we will be talking about. PagerDuty has both what we call technical services and business services. So, Exhibit A, PagerCart, as you see on the screen here, it's maybe a made-up business, maybe a side business from PagerDuty. It's a mobile grocery ordering system. And this organization has set up technical and business services. A technical service in PagerDuty reflects a discrete piece of functionality that is wholly owned by one team. So my particular team owns the checkout function that is part of our shopping cart business service. So as you can see in that shopping cart column, there can be one or more technical services that combined to deliver customer-facing or business capabilities. So in the shopping cart, we have a checkout function, we have payments, we have an app server. For the mobile app, we have Crashlytics, load performance, liveness. So there's different technical services that make up that overarching business service. And if something happens and something goes wrong on, let's say, facilities tickets under our supply chain lifecycle, we can kind of collaborate, work with our teams, but leadership may know that, hey, something's wrong on a supply chain lifecycle. So that's why when we are setting up accounts, we do like to connect those technical services up to an overarching business area or business service. And those business services allow you to connect relationships or dependencies that span multiple technical services. And these can be owned by several different teams. So it can look something to what you see here, but there are a lot of benefits. So again, as I mentioned, anyone, including any stakeholders or maybe PagerCart CEO, can look at the business services and know if, hey, the mobile app performance, is it functioning properly? Yes or no? They don't necessarily need to know what kind of liveness or page load metrics equate to an incident, since I'm sure many of the people that are a bit higher up may not be engineers or familiar with what these metrics actually mean. But if any of the metric thresholds are breached, PagerDuty can automatically show that a business service is having an incident. So we will be hopping into PagerDuty in a few minutes to set this up. One thing I quickly want to show you as well are there are multiple ways to essentially set this up. One of the first ways is a DevOps or a distributed service type model. So at the very bottom in the kind of darker bluish, tealish color, alerts are sent from their native tool directly to a technical service that you have created in PagerDuty, and integrations are set up on that service. So we'll go through setting this up today, but let's say you have New Relic as a monitoring tool, and you connect that directly to a technical service that your team owns. You've done the configuration properly, so if anything goes wrong on that technical service, it will also be reflected on that appropriate business service, so leadership has an eye in on it. So this model does help a few different roles, executives and stakeholders. It gives them kind of services they understand, an immediate view of impact. For managers, you can understand your dependencies. You can see a unified view of impact, avoid team burnout from noisy services. So you can actually say, hey, this service is coming up with a lot of incidents from New Relic. Is there something we want to do about noise? How can we start to mitigate some of these events? The second model that we do have is more of a centralized model. Alerts are sent from their native tool into one central place. And in PagerDuty, if you've been here a while, this used to be called event rules, but we've recently changed this over to what we call global event orchestrations. And you can create event orchestrations to help manage a variety of alerts being integrated in one place versus on individual services. So instead of this direct connect, what we're doing is sending our events from our tools to this one central place, and then based on certain criteria, sending them to the appropriate technical services. For example, if an event comes in, it's high urgency, it's critical, and it also has a tag that has mobile app and another particular feature, we know right away that belongs to a particular service, the mobile app service. So this approach is more for when managers are the ones who manage all the best practices, set up, and follow organization-wide standards. Their role is to be the lead for scaling the system to provide teams with automated context for each alert. So this is really the approach. Instead, again, maybe you have 20 teams that use New Relic. instead of setting up 20 different integrations to 20 different services, you could integrate all of it into the one event orchestration and then route based on context. But again, depending on who's managing it, how that will be managed in the future, that will help kind of dictate your decision. And last but not least, we have a hybrid model. So this is where many organizations that we work with currently sit. They are transitioning from kind of that centralized to DevOps model or vice versa. And often we have some teams who route events through the global orchestration, while some other teams, maybe they're a bit more niche or unique, send them directly to technical services. And you have the power to work with both options. So today, just for demo's sake, because we only have 30 minutes together, we are going to look at more of the DevOps distributed model, and we're going to hop in and look at how to set up these technical and business services. To do that, again, won't be death by PowerPoint. We'll hop into PagerDuty itself and set up some services. So once you are logged into PagerDuty, shouldn't be a surprise, services are very important. So we have a kind of singular nav bar option here for you called services. And here you're able to see the service directory, which is essentially all of your technical services. We have your business services, and then a new service graph that you can check out as well. So first, in order to kind of roll those services up or technical services up to our business service, we need to set up some technical services. So we'll hop into our service directory. So under your service directory, you have full access to see all of the different services in your account. So I have tons in here right now. And once they are created, you would be able to see what team owns it, who's on call now, when the last incident was, how many open incidents there currently are, and service standards, which we'll talk about in a moment. If you have manager level access and above, you have the ability to see this blue button in the top right-hand corner that says new service. When you're creating a new service, we recommend a very thoughtful name and description. So again, this technical service that we're building, as it says here, reflects a discrete piece of functionality, and it's wholly owned by your team. So this is something that's not really owned by 16 different teams. What is this service that you're responsible for, that you're monitoring, that your team wholly owns? So in this case, it could be something like on the learning side and on the training side, we have a service called our learning management system. The learning management system that we use essentially houses all of our e-learning content. It houses all of these recordings. It essentially houses everything that we need for our education site. So if that ever goes down, we're kind of in trouble. Part of our learning management system is the account creation. So you go in and you create an account on that learning management system. We'll call it LMS because there could be account creation across many aspects of this PagerDuty account. And so we need to make sure that when people create accounts on our learning management system, everything's running properly. And if something's going wrong, we'll be brought aware of it. And we have a description. I highly recommend adding a description because, again, as you grow, as you scale, this service is for as you grow, as you scale. If you have, again, multiple account creation sites, if you have a new PagerDuty user coming in, how will they know which service is yours? How do they know what they own? So a description is very helpful there. I'm going to hit next. And on our call yesterday, or on our webinar yesterday, we went through the creation of an escalation policy. So since we've already created that, we can select an existing escalation policy. And I'm going to select our training team that's responsible for the LMS to get notified if an incident comes in on this service. I'll hit next. Next, we have different ways to reduce noise. So we're not going to dive deep into all of these today. It's a bit of a more advanced topic. I'm going to keep it off, but just so you know, there are multiple ways, depending on your subscription, to alert group based on events coming into that service. For example, if there's 50 alerts that come in within a minute, you can actually do time-based alert grouping to put them all into one incident, so your team isn't spammed with 50 different events. We also have transient alerts. We won't hop into this today. I'm just not going to use this feature, but we have some more content on this in our on-demand learning. I'll hit next. And so how do we want events to come into this particular service to create incidents for us? There's a lot of different ways. The first way that we recommend is, of course, an integration with a particular monitoring tool. So if I'm using Datadog or I'm using New Relic, you can select that particular tool. I'm going to integrate via Datadog, and then we can create that service. We have over 700, probably more than that now, integrations. So again, as I mentioned, first option is to find that. And if it's not listed here, search for it in this bar at the top. And if it's not there, the second option we recommend is via our Events API v2. And what that will do, so if we pick a tool, there's an integration guide, description on how to start to integrate, particularly to that tool. If no tool is available, we will give you an API key to hopefully use with whatever you're essentially working with. As a third option, it is our third option because I don't want to call it less reliable, but we do have to rely more on email servers and making sure Gmail and things like that are up. The third option would be by email. And so instead of an API key, we will give you an email address to send events into. And if that event is sent to that email, it would create an incident. And last but not least, you can create this service without an integration and use our orchestrations. That kind of one central point versus what we're doing now, where we're creating that link between a monitoring tool directly to a technical service. As you see, you can select more than one integration on this particular service. And that's because we want this service to really make sure it's bringing in everything it can from what could essentially happen on that service. So if you are using multiple tools to monitor your learning management system, you can integrate them all on that technical service to get the holistic picture and all of those events coming in. So it doesn't just have to be from one tool. I'm going to hit create service. And once that service is created, you'll come to kind of a service details page. And you can always get here again by going to your service directory. You can search for account creation, or I can see it right here. And you can click into that title to get back here. So right now, there's no open incidents. Beth is on call currently. It's tied to our training team escalation policy. That escalation policy currently isn't assigned to a team, so we want to make sure we get that set up. And then below, we can see a bunch of different tabs. Activity will show you any incidents, any change events that we set up, anything suppressed. So this is really your details page of everything that's going on that service for your incidents. But even before that, integrations is important because our service isn't essentially fully set up yet. We've essentially said we want to integrate Datadog. Maybe we have something we want to use our generic events API for, and we have an email integration, but we haven't set them up yet. What we would do here is we would open this integration guide. And this is a full guide to how to integrate Datadog with PagerDuty. We give you that integration key, which you'll need, the URL. Does look a little bit different from our events API v2. It's a bit more generic. It shows you how to kind of build this out. And then, as I mentioned, for email, a little bit different as well. How our email integration works, it gives you an email to send them into, and you can change that. And you'll be able to follow along these instructions. So maybe we've integrated all three aspects. You will see that no alerts have been received yet. So we always recommend sending in an event to see if it creates an incident in PagerDuty. And the last piece we do have down here that I'll mention today is we do also have what we call extensions in PagerDuty. Extensions are a bit different than integrations. Integrations are almost like a one-way communication type where events are being sent from the tool into PagerDuty. Extensions are bidirectional. We can integrate with chat ops tools like Slack and Teams, and we can have two-way dialogue between the two tools. So if an incident comes into PagerDuty, we can send an alert to a particular Slack channel or area in Teams. You can acknowledge that incident and it will reflect in PagerDuty. And if you're using tools like Jira or ServiceNow, we would actually set that up on the extensions because that is also bidirectional. Anything you do in ServiceNow will be reflected on the PagerDuty incident and vice versa, and the same with Jira. If we close a ticket, open a ticket, that will be reflected in PagerDuty as an incident. So we've set up our integrations. We're all set up on that front. One other thing I will show you in here is our settings. When you create your service, there are a few things here by default. So you have your escalation policy, and then you have how your people will be alerted for this service. I'm going to edit that. I'm not going to change my escalation policy, but now we can see how should our responders be notified. By default, this is set that every incident that comes into PagerDuty will be a high urgency incident. That is good in few cases where everything coming in is high urgency, but that's pretty few and far between. If you do have a critical service, you could keep that as is. If you have a service that's less critical, you could say every incident will follow low urgency notifications. Our personal favorite is dynamic notifications based on alert severity. If an event comes in with a severity of critical or error, it will result in a high urgency notification. Warning and info will result in a low urgency notification. So this one's great because not everything coming in will be high. It will be dictated based on the event itself, the context, and the severity field. Last but not least, if you are using a support-based model, you could say from the hours of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and you can see these are customizable. You can pick and choose, change the times. During support hours, maybe use high urgency notifications, or maybe use low, because during that time we have eyes on glass and people are in the office. And then outside of that time where no one's in the office, let's make those high urgency. So this is, I don't want to say critical to set up, but if you want a good kind of work-life balance for your team, not everything is going to be critical unless the nature of the service is critical. So I would recommend either updating this to dynamic or based on support hours. And I'll hit save. You know you're on the right track when we see this service standards pop into the green. So I would take a look at this for your services when you're setting them up. They are recommendations. By any means, if this is in the red or the yellow, I don't want to say you're not okay. Your service is set up, which is great. But for a really well-functioning service, we want to get this into the green. So does the service have at least one business service? Is there one technical service dependency? Is alert grouping turned on? Does it have an API integration? So it's more of our recommendations to proper service setup. So you can see I can talk about services all day. We are getting close to our time. So of course, the last step here is to add this service to a business service. So our leadership doesn't have to come in and say, hey, I kind of understand your account creation LMS service, but I'm confused on what's going on. So under services, we will hop into business services, and I'll create a new business service. And I'm going to call this learning management system. So maybe we have not just the one account creation service, we have multiple. We would add in who owns this business service and the appropriate team. I don't think I have a learning management system. Oh, I have a training team on here now. So I'll add that training team. Again, always recommend a description. And then below that, what is the learning management system essentially dependent on? And we need to find our technical services that we created. I'll actually add all three of these just to show you what that looks like. We can add all of our technical services that represent this business service. And if a problem happens on this business service via one of these technical services, are any other business services in the account affected? So if the, let's say, online catalog, just as an example, is also impacted, if our account creation is impacted, I would add that as a dependency here. And then we can hit create business service. So once there's an incident on that particular service, which there isn't as of now, we see all systems are operational. If there is an incident, and I'll just kind of append a business problem here. So this incident where there's been another problem, it is actually impacting our learning management system. If an incident is impacted by that particular, or that service, I should say, is impacted, I'll find their learning management system. There is currently a problem on the learning management system, and you would be able to see all of the incidents that are impacting that learning management system, regardless of the technical service. You can see our service dependencies, what's dependent on what. And then you can add people as subscribers as well. So if I'm interested in receiving notifications anytime the learning management system has a problem and I'm subscribed, I would get notified with status updates based on the status updates provided on that incident. All right, so that's a lot of what I wanted to cover today. Again, I could talk about this for days on end. That's just a little sneak peek into beginning to set up your technical services and business services in PagerDuty. One thing I did briefly touch on was event orchestration. If it is something you want to hop into, I would chat with your account manager. Organizations, though may seem a little daunting at the beginning, are great to set up if you are a manager and responsible for a lot of different technical services. So take your data, apply logic, add some automation in there, and then give your team the next best action to take to mitigate any kind of hopeful future disruptions as well. So as next step, please hop into PagerDuty, work to configure your account. As I mentioned, we are working to get recordings of these sessions up on our portal. I will post some links in the chat. We do have a survey. Let us know what you liked, maybe didn't like about today's session. We have our knowledge base there, which has a ton of different great articles for you to kind of check out. A support team available to you. If you have any questions, they're world-class, available almost 24/7. But with that, you're always welcome to reach out. And if you have any additional training related questions, you can reach out to pdu@pagerduty.com. All of our learning and our learning management system is available at university.pagerduty.com. So feel free to save that and check it out at any point. That completes part 4 of what we're calling our PagerDuty 101 webinar series. It is our first time running it. We appreciate if you've been here 1 to 4 different days this week. We hope you found it useful. Thank you so much again for joining us, and hopefully we will talk to everyone again soon.